Hi, in this video, I will show you how to set up the SQL Always On cluster in Azure within a same subnet. So let me show you my infrastructure first. I have one domain controller in Azure, and these two are my SQL nodes. All are part of the single VNet. In fact, they all are in a single subnet. I have already installed SQL standalone on both the nodes, and Node 1 also has a test database, whereas Node 2 does not have any test database. So I will also set up the Windows failover cluster and the Azure internal load balancer. So with that, let me first show you my Node 2. I'm just logging in. So let me just first show you. So I'm just logging into the Node 2 in my SQL Management Studio, and you can see there is no database. Okay. So prerequisites I have already completed. Domain environment, both SQL nodes joined to the domain. SQL standalone is already installed, and test database I already have, and I have also taken a backup of the test database. So with that, I will start to configure the Azure Load Balancer first. So I'm going to follow this particular article to configure the Azure Load Balancer. And in the Azure Load Balancer, I have already defined the front end and the back end pool, but I need to configure the health probe. So this is the health probe. I will go here and endpoint probe will be rule. So it's asking for the port number is this. Now after this, I will configure the LB rule, and this is called load balancing rule. This is my front end, this is my back end, and then the port is going to be this, and the backend port is also going to be this. Health probe I've already configured, session builder, and I will enable the floating IP. So the floating IP needs to be enabled. With that, I will save. So that's all. This much is the configuration needs to be done. Now this is my front-end IP, and I will go on my the node. So if you actually see here, always on, it's basically going to give you the error right now because this machine is not part of the cluster. And if I actually try to configure and start the service, so let me go here and the management configuration. So as per this, once this is done, now before enabling the always on service, we need to set up the failover cluster. Okay, so on this is the service. If I go and actually always on, it says the computer is not on the failover cluster yet. So I need to basically configure the failover cluster first. So let me do that. So failover cluster feature is already installed in both the nodes, and I'm going to go ahead and create cluster. So here's the node 1 and node 2. Add, I will move next. Yes, next. Okay, that's it. So let's wait for this to complete. Installation is in progress right now for the failover cluster. So the configuration is going on. So this much, this is done. Let me click on finish. It's asking for the cluster name, SQL fellow cluster. Next. Okay, so this is done. Let me click on finish. So the cluster configuration is done. If you actually see in the role, there is nothing much in the role. Go to the network. This is the network name we will be utilizing later. But for now, there are two nodes, and in the role there is nothing much. Okay, so now since this is configuration is done, now you can go to the SQL configuration manager and go to the service always on. Okay, let me refresh this. Just, refresh. So I will go on this now again. Now it is detecting that this is part of the cluster. I will enable this, and this we need to do on both the SQL nodes. So this is done. I will also start the browser service, and once this is done, then I will also restart the uh, service. Maybe start the service. In the meantime, I will do the same configuration on node 2 as well. I will go to the properties of it. So always on availability group. This one node 1 is completed. So I'm in node 2. So enable always on. I will be doing the same configuration here as well, and then restart the service and start the agent service. So once this is done, this is basically before enabling the service, set up the failover cluster. This is done, enabling always on both the service, and then on the primary node, then I will basically try to set up the always on availability group. So this is done. Okay, so on this node 2, also I have enabled the service for the always on cluster. Let me quickly go to the properties and quickly check one more time. So one thing I want to show is that in the always on rules, once we configure the always on availability group from the SQL Management Studio, you will be able to see the configurations are coming up here as well. Okay, I will show. At the moment, I'm just restarting my node 2 because of some performance issue. I will show you once this comes up. So the cluster always on service is also started on node 2, and I'm trying to log into the SQL Management Studio on node 2 as well, and you will see that there is no database. Okay, so what all things we have configured so far. So up till here, everything is done. Now we will basically go ahead and set up the always on availability group. So I will go start with node 1. I will bring down the SQL management to the configuration, and I will go to the SQL Management Studio. So this is always on high availability group. So you click on refresh. I will basically, so this is there, and new availability group wizard. So I will go that AG01. This is availability group, and you will be seeing the same thing will be visible here under the role once this is configured. So cluster type is failover cluster, and I will move next. This is the test database. It says full backup is required. Let me first take the full backup if I have not taken. So task backup, and I will perform a full backup. Okay, so the backup is done. I will go back to the SQL Management Studio, availability group, new availability group wizard, move next, AG01, failover cluster, move next. This is my database. I will put a check, and this is my node 1. I will also add replica, which is node 2. A connection to the established. Okay. Um, node 2, it's not able to connect. Connection was successfully established, but the error occurred during the login process. Okay. Okay. Trust certificate. I will connect. So if this is in the same data center, I'll just make it synchronized, and automatic failover we can do, and readable secondary. We can make the secondary as readable. Yes. And there are multiple things. This is the replica. This is the endpoints, and we can also create a listener from here, but I will not be doing it from here. We will do it at the end. Okay, so I will move next. So this is set to synchronized, and this one, the primary one, is read intent only. Secondary, I can set it. I can set the secondary. Yes. Move next. This is about the synchronization, automatic seeding. It's talking about the listener, which we are aware of. So listener, I will set up after the configuration of this. So let's wait for this to complete. Okay, so this is completed. Let me click on finish. This is all done. Let me close this. I will expand, and there's a group listener. So I will configure the listener now, add a listener. AG01 listener. Port is 14333, and IP it's talking about. So IP address, we need to provide the IP address which has been assigned to my load balancer frontend, which is this one. So I will provide the same IP address. Configure. Okay. So all these listener configuration and the IP address, whatever we're going to assign here, it is going to be automatically assigned to the failover cluster. I will refresh this. So this is my listener, and these are the resources, and this is the IP address assigned automatically to this one. Okay. So uh, this is done. So I'll just show you here. So up till now, we've configured this. Now create listener from SQL Management Studio console, which we have already done listener also. Now we have configured the Azure load balancer, and inside the load balancer there is a backend pool. There is a health probe for this particular port, and this is a load balancing rule. So we need to basically run the PowerShell command on the primary node to ensure that it is listening on this particular port. So my primary node is this one, and I will go ahead and bring up the PowerShell. Now, in order to show that this is functioning, I will basically go ahead and open my management studio one more time. My listener name is AG01 hyphen listener. So this is going to be AG01 hyphen listener. First, I will connect. So you see this, I am able to connect to this particular listener from node 01, but I won't be able to connect it from node 02 because the configuration is not yet completed. Uh, Whereas, you will also see that on the DNS, my listener is already registered. So, but still I won't be able to connect because that IP address is uh, going to the load balancer front end IP. So let me quickly go and cross check. In the meantime, I will also bring up the management studio on node 2. This is my domain controller. I will open DNS. Now, in the DNS, I'm going to the zone. You can see that my SQL, this is my listener, AG01 listener. Okay. And when this is coming up, so this is my node 2. I'm trying to log in with the same listener name, and this should give me the error. Let's see. AG01 listener. And this is AG01 listener. This will not function. Now the last step of this is basically we need to ensure our nodes are listening on the port 58888. So for that we need to run this particular PowerShell command. I've already copied this PowerShell. So see, you can see this is the error on node 2. I've already copied this PowerShell command here, and there are the cluster name. So how can you get the cluster name? It is failover cluster and then network. If I go to my failover cluster and then go to the network, this is the cluster name. I have already copied it. Now after that, there is a IP resource name. IP resource name is this, how you can get it. This is the failover cluster role resource, and then right click on the IP. So failover cluster role and then the resource, and then right click on the IP properties, and this is the name, IP resource name. So I have already copied that also. This is my listener LB IP. So this is my LB frontend IP, and this is the port. So I will execute this PowerShell command first. The term execute is not okay. So let me just comment this out. Execute this. Yeah, the property is stored. Okay. It says take this is offline and online again. So I will go here. I will just take this offline and I will bring it online. Okay. While this is online, I need to ensure these services are also online. So let me start this. Okay, it's done. So now I will go to my node 2. I will try to connect it one more time, and it should work this time. So now this is my listener, which is again set up on the always on, and this is coming up via the load balancer front-end IP. And this concludes the practical for this. Let me just close and reopen the SQL Management Studio on this node once again. Okay, this is my again node 2, and I'm trying to again connect to the same listener. So let me try to connect. So I've just right clicked on the node 2 on this database, and I've clicked on join database to the availability group AZ01. Let's see what comes up. As you have seen previously, I was getting this node 2 as disconnected state. The reason for that is uh, my this service was running on the NT authority, which is on the local system. I have changed this service to a user account, both on node 1 as well, both on node 2 as well as on node 1. Okay. Now, after I changed this, I have just restarted this service, and on the SQL Management Studio, my DBs are in the synchronized state now. So my primary and secondary are showing up now in the healthy state. If you actually see it here, you will be able to see it. And if I try to connect on, let me just try to connect to, so this is my listener. I can connect to my listener, and I will also try to connect on node 2. This is on node 2, and this is where I was seeing a red cross, which is not there anymore. Even I could see the databases. So one important consideration from a configuration standpoint, the service should be running on a user account, not on the default system. Otherwise, the databases will not replicate. Okay, now if I need to perform a failover, you can see that my primary is node 1 and secondary is node 2. Now, if I perform a failover, let me just perform a failover to node 2. Let me connect to node 2. So this concludes the overall practical for the failover cluster. And now you can see that my node 1 is secondary and node 2 is primary. And my listener is also available. Both the DBs are synchronized, as well as I can connect to the listener from both node 1 as well as from node 2. Now, just quickly check one more thing. The failover is set to, let me just connect to the listener. Okay, now I will just perform one more test wherein I will basically do an automatic failover. So I will go to my AlwaysOn. I will basically go to the properties of it, and instead of this, I can do this to automatic. Okay, I will click on OK. Now this is set to automatic failover, and right now node 2 is primary. Okay, and I will power off the node 1, or rather, I will just stop the service on node 1. We stop the service. So right now my node 2 is primary, and I'm stopping the service on my node 2. So it should fail over on node 1. Let's just refresh, wait for some time. Okay, I think the service is stopped, and this is showing as disconnected. Let me go on node 1. So let me try to connect to the listener. See, my listener is still accessible. Okay, and I can still connect to my listener. Let me quickly check. See, primary one, the node one is primary now. So this concludes the overall failover and the complete configuration of the SQL Always On cluster. Thank you.